topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, New York. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where for the last 16 years, we have bringing you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. So for the last 3 years, and I just want people to know, I read every one of your emails, your texts. For the last 3 years, you've been asking us to bring on an expert in automobile accidents, slip and falls, wrongful death, even dog bites. And I just got to tell you, we have had 0 openings. And I wanted to do this. And last month, it's sad, one of our New York, New Jersey experts passed away. Very sad. They were with us for 6 years. And, I looked at the different topics that you've been writing in on, and personal injury was the number one topic. And I got to tell you, I feel like I'm so blessed that God brought us one of the top personal injury law firms in not only New York, but also in New Jersey. In fact, we'll be doing a New Jersey show tomorrow. And this is their first show. They're going to be with us for the whole year. And I'm so excited that we can, it took a while, but we're here. Let me introduce you to attorney Michael Licatasi. Good morning, Michael.
Morning. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate that introduction.
I am so excited because we've gotten so many requests, and I was amazed. People still, after all these national commercials, people still don't know what to do if they're injured in an auto accident. I was shocked.
What's interesting is that personal injury is a phenomenon that's nationwide. But like you said, people still don't know how to navigate it. And I think one of the complexities is how intricate the insurance companies are. And it makes it difficult for lay people to navigate the insurance claims because they're designed not to pay you. And that's why we do what we do.
Well, we're going to talk about your firm and what you've created over the years. I want to share something with you. My son in Dallas, Texas, who thinks he is the best negotiator in the world. And he said to me, he was in an accident. I'm not going to hire an attorney. He said, I can deal with these insurance companies. And I got to tell you, I'm going to make it real quick. He ended up settling for about $2,000 when he won't even admit to you, I was lost in the negotiations. They were so good at what they do. And the money I thought I was saving, I lost it I left it on the table. I could have probably settled for $80,000 or $90,000. And he said, I will tell anyone, I don't care how good a negotiator they are, you've got to hire an attorney.
And I think that's the most powerful part about having these conversations, right? And what you do is so important because you bring human beings on that can explain those things to individuals. We had a case where a woman came to me in a very similar scenario, a young woman the insurance companies are now designed to also make offers as soon as an accident happens. So sometimes they'll offer you 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, maybe sometimes all the way up to $5,000. And this young girl came to us and said, Mike, I signed the insurance release and they sent me the money and it was for 2,500. What do I do? I said, send the money back. Let's rip up the release and let's go after them. So about a year and a half later, within 18 months, which is a typical time frame for a case, unfortunately, she was about 26, 27 years old. She needed knee surgery. And we settled the case for over $200,000. I think the settlement was about $225,000. And she got over 100 times what she was, or about 100 times what she was originally offered by the insurance company. And oftentimes people think, let me just accept this quick money because I don't want to go through the process. And that's something I'd love to talk about today. And they think that the first offer may be the best offer. And they may just accept the money because of something they're going through with their family, right, which we understand, but there's certain ways for us to navigate that. And one of the most important things to understand is if you're in a car accident, we can make sure that you get paid lost wages. So having a free consultation with an attorney is so important because, we say, take a deep breath. We're here with you. We'll get you paid those lost wages so you can support your family and you can recover. And by getting better, there's nothing you really need to do outside of taking care of your health. And as you do that, you're building a case at the same time. We're doing the legal work. You're focusing on yourself. And then that's all we did to settle that case for over $200,000 when she was only offered $2,000 because we did all the legal work. At the beginning, she was trying to do it. And once she realized that, we had a very successful case together.
Michael, before I go any further, are you a new father?
I just had my second child. I just had my first daughter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And, you're a real trooper. You're already back in the office. Tell me about the firm. When did you start the firm?
So my father established a practice about 40 years ago. It's been family run. I started working here when I was about 11. Really working in the legal field here for a little over 10 years. I started out as a trial attorney and I was in the appellate division, one of the higher courts in New York, arguing cases throughout the federal courts, court of claims against New York State, and the Supreme Court in New York. And then I decided to take on a different approach and help more people. And that's why I'm here today, is because I felt that our firm should help more people because we're putting our clients first. And, the attorneys have the power to change laws, to change people's lives, to hold accountability, right? And that's an extremely powerful thing that we can do. So I felt like I should be representing more people. And by coming on to talk shows that you're hosting, it allows me to get my word out there about what we stand for, who we've helped, client testimonials. And I'd love to bring on some of our clients throughout the year that we work together and tell about a verdict that I got last week is something I'd love to bring one of my clients on to.
So, Michael, I got this. You'll love this. I've been doing this so long. I remember the days where if you didn't have a full Yellow Page ad as a personal injury attorney, that people just skipped over you. And finally, we got away from Yellow Pages, finally, and we went to websites. And I don't think people really understand. It's not who's got the biggest and the longest and the best commercials. It's the firm that's going to take care of you from day one. And I don't even think people realize if they've never been in an accident or a slip and fall, they don't have to write you a check, do they, the first day?
Yeah. You know what I find interesting is that the best lawyers aren't getting most of the cases. It's the best marketers, right?
Yes.
And it took me a while to understand that. And I'd say, well, I would get an influx of cases on a weekly basis. Mike, can you please help me? I hired this other lawyer. He hasn't filed a lawsuit yet. I'm not sure what to do. And as I continued to, represent clients over the last decade, I realized that I need to get my story out there to give people better representation. And people will see the Morgan and Morgan ads or the big firms
Yes.
out there that, their marketing budget is larger than the GDP of certain countries. And it's insane to think about that. But I believe in personal attention. I believe that although, we do represent a good amount of clients, we still make sure that attention to detail and quality is always there. And I think that's the same with any industry, is that when you hire a contractor, let's say, are they on the job site? Is the job site a mess? Are they really reviewing their subcontractors? That's the way it should be in a law firm too. Is the managing partner meeting with the attorneys and meeting with the paralegals and reviewing your file as much as they should be, right? Just because you see an ad on TV doesn't mean they're doing that. You have to meet the person in person and have that conversation with them. And I think in a world where we're so digital, that in-person contact, that in-person connection is something that people are going to strive for. And sometimes we don't get that gratification till the end of the case. I sat in court last week, one of our trial attorneys, myself, and my client, and we got a $4 million verdict. And you just see my client crying and hugging. And those are the types of reactions and human connections of why we do what we do. We're so far removed from that in society. And I think we have to get back to that. And there are a lot of attorneys out there that are doing what we're doing, that are putting their clients first, that are real trial attorneys, that are real litigators, that can get clients the money that they really deserve. You have to find them, because a lot of times they're not on TV.
Exactly. What's so great about this show, I want people to really appreciate what you're offering. You're going to find, and Michael's going to be with us every month. You're going to find we're not running some commercial for his firm. Michael's going to be here to educate you. I mean, it's like free advice. And then if you choose to hire their firm, that's up to you. But this is something that he's giving back to the New York community and the New Jersey community. We're going to have another show. Our New Jersey show is tomorrow at actually the same time. Actually, it's at 10:25 tomorrow. But Michael, we're going to use this show to educate people, and that they feel comfortable to, if they have a claim, to come to you. Tell me what the first step is.
Sure. So when you're involved in an accident, you document the accident by calling the police, you take photos, you take the insurance information from the other driver, you contact your attorney before you speak to anybody, and you go to the doctor. So let's make an acronym today, DAD. You follow DAD, you call DAD, right? So you document, you call your attorney, and you go to the doctor. So those are the three first things, when it comes to a personal injury case. If you can document it with the police, you can take videos, you can take photos, you get seen by a doctor right away, and you contact your attorney, you should be okay, because your claim's protected because you went to the doctor and you spoke to your attorney, so you know how to explain your case to the insurance company. I had a client call me a few weeks ago, and he said, Mike, I was making a left turn, and then I was rear-ended right after I completed the turn. And I said to the client, I said, wait, so you were rear-ended? He said, yes. I said, well, how long after your turn were you rear-ended? Oh, I completed my turn for like 30 seconds, and then I was rear-ended. The point of what I'm trying to say is that whenever an insurance company hears I was making a left turn, they're going to apportion fault to you for the accident. So you're going to have a very difficult time with property damage, and you're going to have a very difficult time settling your case. So when you call your attorney first, I'd say, listen, don't mention anything about a left turn, because you already completed it 30 seconds before. So just let them know that you were proceeding straight with the right of way and you were rear-ended. That's why you contact an attorney, As soon as you say that statement, it's recorded, it sticks with the insurance company, and you're never settling your case on your own.
I got to tell you, this is, we're getting in, this is our fifth text. People are concerned. Insurance rates, auto insurance rates have gone up so much. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people out there who do not have auto insurance. People are asking, what do you do if you're in an accident and the person doesn't have auto insurance?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And, throughout the year, you're going to see that there's going to be a lot of questions about insurance premiums, insurance rates. It's a huge focus within our industry right now. The government's involved, Hochul's involved, politicians are involved more than ever. So, today may not be the day, but over the course of the year that we spend together, we're going to get deep into it. But to answer that question, if the other car doesn't have insurance, that's why you must have insurance, right? So if there's one thing that that listeners take out for this next year from this podcast, from our talk show, is to make sure that you have SUM coverage, supplementary underinsured motorist coverage, or uninsured motorist coverage, coverage. So that coverage you pay for in your premiums to protect you and your family in case the other car was uninsured, right? So let's put it into a hypothetical. You're driving, another car blows through a stop sign and hits you. That car that hits you doesn't have insurance. It was a stolen vehicle. They couldn't pay their premiums. There's no registration, whatever the situation. Your insurance will have that policy, and we can file a claim to make sure that your own insurance company pays. Now, the next question the clients say is, well, I don't want to use my insurance. Well, why would I use my insurance? Well, first of all, you have no other choice. But second of all, that's why you have insurance. And the increase in premiums versus what you may receive from a case is apples to oranges sometimes. So if you have a $100,000 policy and you're really hurt and you resolve a case for $100,000, it's a substantial amount of money when you're talking about maybe a nominal increase in premiums. And if it's your first accident and you're not at fault, there shouldn't really be an increase in premiums. But as personal injury attorneys, we can't gauge what the insurance companies are going to do. So if your attorney tells you, we have to use your insurance company, and I promise you, I swear to you that the insurance premiums will never go up, he's full of it. And you have to be very skeptical when you have those conversations with attorneys, because some of them will be in it for the money and some of them will be in it to have your best interest in mind. And the long story short piece of uninsured vehicles is that you have to use your insurance. You have to have coverage. I have increased my coverage significantly to make sure that if me or my kids or my wife were ever in a bad accident, they would be fully protected. And last thing I'll say on that piece, because I really take this one to heart. I represented a kid who was hit by a woman that was on drugs at the time. And he was about 11 years old, ran over his leg. And the injury was so bad that they had to shave down his leg, and he walked with a limp for the rest of his life. And the woman that hit him only had a $25,000 policy. Now, in that scenario, you can use your own insurance. So if he's living with his family and his parents and they have a vehicle, they can use their insurance, but their insurance has to exceed $25,000 in order for you to use it. So if you have the minimum policy at home, that's a problem, because you're never going to be able to get additional money if there's such a substantial accident. So for example, if this family had $100,000, $250,000, $500,000 or more on their premium, then their child would have been protected. And the hard part of that is those policies are a little bit more expensive, but unfortunately, that's the only way to protect yourself.
Michael, you're going to see. I told you the show goes by very fast. I have got so many questions for you that we'll have to save for next month. But um, here's a question. There's so many different areas of personal injury. Tell me the areas of personal injury your firm covers.
So we're a full service personal injury firm, which I love because when somebody comes to our office, I can typically represent most people. So we do the typical personal injury of construction accidents, motor vehicle accidents, trip and fall accidents, and we take wacky fact patterns if we can find liability. We've taken infectious disease cases against big grocery companies. We settled, one of those recently for a few $1 million where somebody ate frozen food from a grocery store that everybody knows, and they went blind because they had listeria. And we linked it to a recall. So the products that they were selling actually were recalled. We take on medical malpractice cases. So even if there's a complex medical malpractice case where the doctor or the hospital deviated from the medical standard, we could take those cases. Nursing home abuse, I enjoy taking those cases to stand up for the elderly. We've seen the most horrific cases of bed sores the size of someone's spine. We've seen cases where elderly are abused and attacked and beat up. So standing up for them, and there's certain laws under the public health laws that protect the elderly, which we're able to use at our disposal. So those are typically the cases we take, but anything personal injury we'll take. Dog bite cases. I know some people have questions about those, and the laws recently changed on that. So I'm sure we'll get into that during the show too.
Somebody just texted in, do you handle workers' comp?
So we don't handle workers' comp. One thing I think is important is for attorneys to stay in their lane. And I think doctors kind of the same way too. It's like, if you're a cardiologist, you're not, doing a shoulder surgery. So as a personal injury attorney, anything personal injury typically will take. Workers' compensation, we have a bunch of firms that, we have worked with over the years that do a great job.
I got to get this last text, and this
and,
is.
And let me just say also this: if anybody calls in and wants to contact us for recommendations to attorneys, I can provide a list, and they can choose the attorney that they want. I wouldn't direct anybody to someone, but I can give a list of people that we've worked with over the years, and they could choose someone from there and interview them on their own. People that I would, typically use myself.
This is from Michael in Brooklyn. I was one of the ones who has been writing in for you to get a personal injury attorney on. Thank you so much. It looks like you got a great one. Is there a charge at all for a consultation?
There is not a charge for a consultation. It's a great question. And that's why I urge clients, as soon as you're involved in an accident, to call a personal injury attorney, whether it's us or somebody else, because that initial call could just be a 2 to 5 minute phone call to see if you do have a case, or we can direct you in the right direction at no cost. The only time that you pay us is if we win. Our fees are designed and governed, so we can't really adjust our fees, and our contingency fee charge is 1/3. That's standard throughout the industry for all personal injury attorneys. And that fee and the expenses on the case come out at the end. So throughout the case, you want to go with the firm that can upfront all the costs with you. There are some firms that may not have the bandwidth to upfront all the costs, but the cost to litigate, the cost to receive medical records, postage, everything that goes along with the personal injury case, process servers, depositions, all of those costs we will pay for, and then it comes out of the case at the end.
Well, you got a good show when someone writes in, your show's not long enough. That's when you have a good one. Michael, for those who are listening on radio right now or on iHeart, Spotify, we've been running your firm name and phone number. How do people reach your office?
So They can contact our main number, 516-227-2662. That's our main line. You can also text 516-725-2552. So if you want to text us, 516-725-2552, and we could set up a time to speak. You could look at our Instagram page and message us through Instagram. You could call us. We also have an intake email if there's a new case. The intake email is intake@tllgllp.com. Again, that's intake@tllgllp.com. It's spelled out the Licatese Law Group LLP.com.
Michael will be with us next month for our New York show, and tomorrow we'll be doing a New Jersey show. Michael, great show. First show.
It's
we'll
very
see
nice
you tomorrow.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That's attorney Michael Licatese. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.